Forgiveness in Buddhism is a profound and transformative practice that goes beyond the mere act of pardoning someone for their transgressions. It is deeply rooted in the principles of compassion, mindfulness, and understanding. In the Buddhist tradition, forgiveness is not just about releasing others from the burden of guilt, but also about liberating oneself from the chains of anger, resentment, and suffering. The journey towards forgiveness is seen as an essential step on the path to enlightenment, as it helps to purify the mind and cultivate a heart full of loving kindness. Buddhism teaches that holding on to grudges and harboring ill will can be detrimental to one's mental and spiritual well-being. These negative emotions create obstacles that hinder personal growth and inner peace. By practicing forgiveness, individuals can break free from these emotional barriers and move towards a state of equanimity and harmony. Forgiveness in Buddhism is closely linked with the concepts of karma and interdependence, emphasizing that our actions and intentions have far-reaching consequences not only for ourselves, but also for others. The act of forgiving in Buddhism is not limited to interpersonal relationships. It also encompasses self-forgiveness. Recognizing one's own mistakes and shortcomings with a sense of compassion and understanding is crucial for personal development. Self-forgiveness allows individuals to let go of self-blame and guilt, fostering a healthier relationship with oneself. This internal process is vital for achieving a balanced and peaceful mind. In essence, forgiveness in Buddhism is a holistic practice that nurtures both inner tranquility and harmonious relationships with others. It encourages individuals to embrace compassion, release negative emotions, and understand the interconnected nature of all beings. Through forgiveness, one can attain a deeper sense of freedom and contribute to a more compassionate world. In Buddhism, forgiveness is not merely an act of absolution, but a profound practice that aligns with the core principles of the Dharma. Unlike some religious traditions where forgiveness might be seen as a divine decree or a moral obligation, in Buddhism, it is deeply intertwined with the concepts of compassion, wisdom, and the understanding of suffering. Forgiveness in Buddhist teachings is about releasing oneself from the cycle of resentment and anger that binds one to suffering. It is an essential step towards achieving inner peace and enlightenment. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. This metaphor underscores the self-destructive nature of harboring grudges and ill will. Forgiveness, therefore, is seen as a way to liberate oneself from these negative emotions. It is an act of self-compassion as much as it is an act of compassion towards others. Central to Buddhist forgiveness is the recognition of impermanence and the understanding that all beings are subject to ignorance and delusion. This perspective fosters empathy and reduces the tendency to judge others harshly. By acknowledging that everyone makes mistakes, and that these mistakes often arise from a lack of understanding or awareness, one can cultivate a more forgiving attitude. Moreover, forgiveness in Buddhism is closely linked to the practice of loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna. These practices encourage individuals to extend unconditional love and compassion to all beings, including those who have caused harm. Through meditation and mindfulness practices, Buddhists learn to develop these qualities within themselves, which naturally leads to a more forgiving disposition. Forgiveness also involves letting go of the ego. The ego often clings to feelings of being wronged or slighted, which perpetuates suffering. By transcending the ego and recognizing the interconnectedness of all life, one can see beyond personal grievances and embrace a broader perspective that facilitates forgiveness. In essence, Buddhist teachings on forgiveness emphasize personal growth and spiritual development. They encourage individuals to look inward, understand their own suffering, and extend that understanding outward to others. This holistic approach not only heals personal wounds, but also contributes to a more compassionate and harmonious world. In Buddhism, compassion is a fundamental virtue that plays a crucial role in the process of forgiveness. Compassion, or karuna in Pali, is the deep empathy and concern for the suffering of others, coupled with a desire to alleviate that suffering. This compassionate mindset is essential for both forgiving others and oneself. When we cultivate compassion, we begin to see beyond our own pain and grievances, recognizing that everyone experiences suffering and makes mistakes. This understanding fosters a sense of shared humanity, which is the foundation for genuine forgiveness. Compassion allows us to approach those who have wronged us with empathy rather than anger or resentment. Instead of viewing them solely through the lens of their actions, we start to see their inherent worth as human beings who are also struggling with their own challenges and imperfections. This shift in perspective can dissolve the barriers of anger and bitterness, making it easier to let go of grudges and offer forgiveness. By practicing compassion, we acknowledge that holding on to resentment only perpetuates our own suffering and prevents us from experiencing peace. Moreover, compassion extends to self-forgiveness as well. Often we are our harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossibly high standards and punishing ourselves for our perceived failures. Through the lens of compassion, we learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend. We recognize that making mistakes is an inherent part of being human, and that self-compassion is essential for healing and growth. By forgiving ourselves, we release the burden of guilt and shame, allowing us to move forward with a lighter heart. In Buddhist practice, cultivating compassion involves various techniques, such as loving-kindness meditation, metta bhavana, where one systematically sends thoughts of goodwill and compassion to oneself and others. This practice helps to soften the heart and develop a more compassionate outlook on life. As we deepen our practice of compassion, forgiveness becomes a natural extension of our spiritual journey. It transforms from a challenging task into an act of liberation, freeing us from the chains of anger and resentment. Ultimately, compassion in Buddhism is not just an emotion, but a profound commitment to understanding and alleviating suffering wherever it exists. It is through this compassionate commitment that forgiveness becomes possible, allowing us to heal wounds, mend relationships, and cultivate inner peace. By embracing compassion as a guiding principle in our lives, we open the door to a more forgiving and harmonious existence. In Buddhism, karma is a fundamental concept that refers to the law of cause and effect. It posits that every action, whether good or bad, has consequences that will manifest either in this life or in future lives. Understanding karma can significantly influence one's approach to forgiveness, both towards oneself and others. When we grasp the idea that our actions create ripples that affect our own lives and the lives of others, it becomes easier to see the importance of cultivating positive actions and intentions. Forgiveness in the context of karma is not about condoning harmful behavior or forgetting the wrongs done. Instead, it is about breaking the cycle of negative karma by responding with compassion and understanding rather than anger and resentment. Holding on to grudges and harboring ill will only perpetuates suffering and creates more negative karma. By choosing to forgive, we release ourselves from this cycle and pave the way for healing and peace. Moreover, understanding karma helps us recognize that everyone is on their own spiritual journey, influenced by their past actions and experiences. This awareness fosters empathy, as we realize that those who have wronged us are also dealing with their own karmic burdens. This perspective can soften our hearts and make it easier to extend forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is equally important in the framework of karma. Acknowledging our mistakes and understanding their karmic implications allows us to learn and grow from them, rather than being trapped in guilt and self-recrimination. By forgiving ourselves, we can transform negative karma into positive energy, setting the stage for personal development and spiritual progress. In essence, understanding karma encourages a compassionate approach to forgiveness. It reminds us that every act of forgiveness is a step towards breaking free from the cycle of suffering and moving closer to enlightenment. By integrating this understanding into our lives, we can cultivate a more forgiving heart, leading to greater inner peace and harmony with others. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness is a cornerstone for cultivating forgiveness and letting go of past grievances. Mindfulness, or sati in Pali, involves maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment. This heightened state of awareness allows us to observe our internal experiences without judgment or attachment. When we practice mindfulness, we create a mental space where we can acknowledge our pain and suffering without being overwhelmed by them. This space is crucial for the process of letting go, as it enables us to see our emotions and thoughts as transient phenomena rather than fixed realities. Letting go in the context of mindfulness means releasing the grip of negative emotions such as anger, resentment, and guilt. These emotions often arise from clinging to past events and experiences that have caused us harm or distress. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to observe these emotions with a sense of detachment, recognizing that they do not define us. This detachment does not mean suppression or denial. Rather, it involves a gentle acknowledgement of our feelings, followed by a conscious decision to release them. Through this process, we can break free from the cycle of suffering perpetuated by holding on to grudges and past hurts. Mindfulness also helps us develop a deeper understanding of the impermanent nature of all things, including our emotions and experiences. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of impermanence, or anicca, is fundamental. Everything in life is constantly changing, and nothing remains the same forever. By embracing this truth through mindfulness practice, we can begin to see that our pain and suffering are also temporary. This realization can be incredibly liberating, as it allows us to let go of the past and move forward with a sense of peace and acceptance. Moreover, mindfulness fosters compassion towards ourselves and others. When we are mindful, we become more attuned to the suffering within ourselves and those around us. This awareness naturally leads to a compassionate response, as we recognize that everyone experiences pain and struggles in their own way. Compassionate mindfulness encourages us to forgive ourselves for our mistakes and shortcomings, understanding that we are all imperfect beings on a journey towards growth and enlightenment. Similarly, it helps us extend forgiveness to others by seeing their actions through the lens of empathy and understanding. Incorporating mindfulness into our daily lives can be done through various practices such as meditation, mindful breathing, and mindful walking. These practices help anchor us in the present moment and cultivate a sense of inner calm and clarity. As we become more adept at mindfulness, we find it easier to let go of negative emotions and embrace forgiveness as a natural part of our spiritual path. Ultimately, the practice of mindfulness empowers us to live more fully in the present moment, free from the burdens of past grievances and open to the possibilities of healing and transformation. In the journey of self-forgiveness, Buddhism offers profound insights that encourage embracing one's imperfections. Central to Buddhist philosophy is the understanding that all beings are inherently imperfect and subject to suffering. This acknowledgement forms the foundation for self-forgiveness, as it allows individuals to recognize their own humanity and the inevitability of making mistakes. The teachings of the Buddha emphasize that clinging to self-criticism and guilt only perpetuates suffering, hindering personal growth and spiritual development. Self-forgiveness in Buddhism is deeply intertwined with the concept of self-compassion. By cultivating a compassionate attitude towards oneself, individuals can begin to let go of harsh judgments and accept their flaws with kindness. This process involves acknowledging one's mistakes without being consumed by them, understanding that errors are opportunities for learning and growth, rather than reasons for self-condemnation. The practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, is particularly effective in fostering self-compassion. Through this meditation, practitioners send love and goodwill to themselves, gradually dissolving feelings of unworthiness and self-blame. Another crucial aspect of self-forgiveness in Buddhism is the recognition of impermanence. The doctrine of anicca teaches that all experiences, emotions, and states of being are transient. By internalizing this truth, individuals can understand that their mistakes do not define them permanently. This perspective allows for a more fluid sense of identity, where one can evolve beyond past actions and embrace the possibility of change and improvement. Furthermore, the practice of mindfulness plays a vital role in self-forgiveness. Mindfulness encourages individuals to observe their thoughts and emotions without attachment or aversion. By maintaining a mindful awareness of one's inner experiences, it becomes easier to identify patterns of self-criticism and gently redirect the mind towards more constructive and compassionate thoughts. This non-judgmental observation helps break the cycle of negative self-talk and fosters a more forgiving attitude towards oneself. In essence, self-forgiveness in Buddhism is about embracing one's imperfections with compassion and understanding. It involves recognizing the universal nature of human fallibility, practicing loving kindness towards oneself, accepting the impermanent nature of all things, and cultivating mindfulness to transform negative thought patterns. Through these practices, individuals can release the burdens of guilt and shame, paving the way for a more peaceful and fulfilling life. The Four Noble Truths form the foundation of Buddhist teachings and offer profound insights into the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. These truths are deeply interconnected with the concept of forgiveness, both towards oneself and others. The first noble truth acknowledges the existence of suffering, dukkha, in life. This suffering often stems from our attachments, desires, and aversions, which can lead to feelings of resentment, anger, and a lack of forgiveness. Recognizing that suffering is an inherent part of human existence allows us to understand that holding on to grudges only perpetuates our own pain. The second noble truth identifies the cause of suffering as craving, tanha, and ignorance, avidya. Our inability to forgive often arises from these roots, craving for things to be different than they are, and ignorance about the true nature of ourselves and others. By understanding that our suffering is caused by these mental states, we can begin to see that forgiveness is a way to release ourselves from the cycle of craving and ignorance. It helps us let go of unrealistic expectations and misconceptions about perfection in ourselves and others. The third noble truth offers hope by stating that there is an end to suffering, nirodha. This cessation comes through the practice of letting go, which is intrinsically linked to forgiveness. When we forgive, we release the hold that past wrongs have on us, thereby reducing our suffering. Forgiveness becomes a powerful tool for achieving inner peace and moving towards a state of liberation from the burdens of resentment and anger. The fourth noble truth outlines the path to the cessation of suffering through the Eightfold Path. This path provides practical steps for cultivating qualities such as right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each aspect of the Eightfold Path supports the practice of forgiveness. For instance, right understanding helps us see the impermanent nature of all things, including our grievances. Right intention encourages us to cultivate thoughts of loving kindness and compassion. Right mindfulness allows us to observe our emotions without attachment, making it easier to let go of negative feelings. In essence, the Four Noble Truths guide us towards a deeper understanding of why we suffer and how we can alleviate this suffering through forgiveness. By integrating these truths into our lives, we learn to forgive not just as an act of kindness towards others, but as a crucial step in our own spiritual development and journey towards enlightenment. The Eightfold Path, a fundamental teaching in Buddhism, serves as a comprehensive guide to living a life of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. It offers profound insights into the process of forgiveness, both towards oneself and others. Each element of the Eightfold Path contributes uniquely to cultivating an environment where forgiveness can flourish. Right understanding is the first step on the Eightfold Path and involves comprehending the nature of reality and the impermanence of all things. By recognizing that suffering is an inherent part of existence and that everyone makes mistakes, we can begin to foster a sense of empathy and understanding towards those who have wronged us, including ourselves. Right intention follows, emphasizing the importance of setting intentions rooted in kindness, compassion, and non-harm. When our intentions are aligned with these values, we are more likely to approach situations with a forgiving heart. This step encourages us to let go of ill will and resentment, replacing them with thoughts that promote healing and reconciliation. Right speech is about communicating truthfully and kindly. In the context of forgiveness, it means expressing our feelings without blame or anger. Honest communication can pave the way for mutual understanding and healing. It also involves refraining from gossip or harmful speech that can perpetuate grudges and animosity. Right action involves behaving in ways that do not cause harm to others. By practicing ethical conduct, we create a foundation for trust and respect in our relationships. This ethical behavior extends to how we treat ourselves. By acting with integrity, we can forgive ourselves for past actions that may have caused harm. Right livelihood encourages us to engage in work that does not cause suffering to others. When our means of living are aligned with ethical principles, we contribute to a more compassionate world. This alignment makes it easier to forgive others who may be struggling with their own ethical dilemmas. Right effort is about cultivating positive states of mind while eliminating negative ones. It requires diligence in maintaining thoughts of goodwill and compassion. By consistently working towards a mindset free from anger and resentment, we create fertile ground for forgiveness to take root. Right mindfulness involves being fully present in each moment and observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. This awareness allows us to recognize when we are holding on to grudges or self-blame. Mindfulness helps us see these emotions as transient states rather than fixed aspects of our identity, making it easier to let them go. Right concentration is the practice of developing deep mental focus through meditation. This concentration helps stabilize the mind, making it less reactive and more capable of responding with equanimity. A focused mind can better navigate the complexities of forgiveness, allowing us to release deeply held resentments. By integrating these 8 principles into our daily lives, we create a holistic approach to forgiveness that encompasses understanding, intention, communication, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. The Eightfold Path not only guides us towards personal liberation, but also fosters harmonious relationships with others through the transformative power of forgiveness. Meditation plays a crucial role in cultivating forgiveness, both towards oneself and others. One of the most effective meditation techniques for fostering forgiveness is metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation. This practice involves generating feelings of love and compassion, initially towards oneself, and then extending these feelings to others, including those with whom one has conflicts. By repeatedly focusing on positive intentions and well wishes, practitioners can gradually dissolve feelings of resentment and anger. Another powerful technique is mindfulness meditation, which encourages individuals to observe their thoughts and emotions without judgment. By becoming aware of the negative emotions that arise when thinking about past grievances, one can begin to understand their transient nature. This awareness helps in creating a mental space where forgiveness can flourish. Mindfulness allows practitioners to see the impermanent nature of all experiences, making it easier to let go of grudges and embrace a more forgiving attitude. Tonglen meditation, a practice from Tibetan Buddhism, also offers a unique approach to forgiveness. In Tonglen, practitioners visualize taking in the suffering of others on their in-breath and sending out relief and happiness on their out-breath. This exchange helps in developing empathy and compassion, essential components for genuine forgiveness. By putting oneself in the shoes of others, one can better understand their actions and motivations, making it easier to forgive. Guided meditations, specifically designed for forgiveness, can also be beneficial. These meditations often include visualizations where one imagines meeting the person they need to forgive in a safe and controlled mental space. Through guided imagery, individuals can express their feelings and eventually come to a place of understanding and forgiveness. This method provides a structured way to confront unresolved issues and work through them in a compassionate manner. Breath-focused meditation is another simple yet effective technique. By concentrating on the breath, practitioners can calm their minds and reduce emotional turbulence. A calm mind is more capable of rational thought and less likely to cling to negative emotions like anger or resentment. Regular practice of breath-focused meditation can create a stable mental environment conducive to forgiveness. Incorporating mantras into meditation can also aid in the process of forgiveness. Repeating phrases such as, "I forgive you," or "May I be free from anger," can reinforce the intention to forgive. Mantras serve as powerful reminders of one's commitment to letting go of past hurts and embracing compassion. Lastly, reflective meditation on Buddhist teachings related to impermanence, suffering, and compassion can provide deeper insights into the nature of forgiveness. Contemplating these teachings helps in understanding that holding on to grudges only perpetuates suffering for oneself and others. By internalizing these principles, practitioners are more likely to adopt a forgiving mindset. Through these various meditation techniques, individuals can cultivate an environment within themselves that is conducive to forgiveness. Regular practice not only helps in letting go of past grievances, but also fosters a compassionate outlook that benefits all aspects of life. Buddhist scriptures are replete with stories that exemplify the profound power of forgiveness. These narratives not only illustrate the moral and ethical teachings of Buddhism, but also serve as practical guides for individuals seeking to cultivate forgiveness in their own lives. One of the most poignant stories is that of Angulimala, a feared bandit who had killed many people. When he encountered the Buddha, instead of receiving condemnation, he was met with compassion and understanding. The Buddha's willingness to forgive Angulimala led to his transformation into a devoted monk who spent the rest of his life seeking redemption and spreading the teachings of peace and nonviolence. Another significant story is that of Prince Abhaya, who harbored deep resentment towards his father, King Bimbisara, for favoring his half-brother Ajatashatru. Consumed by anger and jealousy, Abhaya plotted to kill his father. However, after encountering the Buddha and listening to his teachings on compassion and forgiveness, Abhaya experienced a profound change of heart. He forgave his father and reconciled with his family, demonstrating the transformative power of forgiveness. The Jataka tales, which recount the previous lives of the Buddha, also offer numerous examples of forgiveness. In one such tale, the Bodhisattva, the Buddha in a previous life, was born as a king named Sivi. When a neighboring king invaded his kingdom and captured him, King Sivi chose to forgive his captor rather than seek revenge. This act of forgiveness not only spared many lives, but also led to a lasting peace between the two kingdoms. These stories from Buddhist scriptures highlight that forgiveness is not merely an abstract concept, but a practical virtue that can lead to profound personal and societal transformation. They teach us that forgiveness requires strength and courage, but it ultimately leads to inner peace and harmony. By embracing these lessons, individuals can learn to let go of anger and resentment, fostering a more compassionate and forgiving world. In the journey of forgiveness, patience and time are indispensable elements that align closely with Buddhist teachings. Forgiveness is not an instantaneous act, but a gradual process that unfolds at its own pace. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of understanding and accepting this natural progression. The practice of patience, or khanti in Pali, is one of the 10 perfections, paramitas, in Buddhism, highlighting its significance in spiritual development. Patience allows individuals to endure difficulties without harboring resentment or anger, creating a fertile ground for forgiveness to take root. Time plays a crucial role in healing emotional wounds and transforming negative feelings into compassion and understanding. Just as a wound on the body needs time to heal, so too do emotional scars require time to mend. Rushing the process of forgiveness can lead to superficial resolutions that do not address the underlying issues. Instead, allowing time to pass enables deeper reflection and a more profound understanding of the situation and the people involved. Buddhist teachings encourage practitioners to cultivate mindfulness and awareness throughout this period. By staying present and observing one's thoughts and emotions without judgment, individuals can gain insights into their own suffering and the suffering of others. This mindful observation helps in recognizing the impermanent nature of emotions, which can change over time. As feelings of hurt and anger diminish, the space for forgiveness naturally expands. Moreover, patience in the context of forgiveness involves letting go of expectations about how quickly one should forgive, or how others should respond to our forgiveness. It requires an acceptance of the present moment as it is, without clinging to past grievances or future outcomes. This acceptance is rooted in the Buddhist principle of non-attachment, which teaches that holding on to fixed ideas and desires leads to suffering. In essence, patience and time are not passive elements but active components of the forgiveness process. They allow for a deeper engagement with one's inner experiences and foster a compassionate perspective towards oneself and others. By embracing patience and giving oneself the necessary time, individuals can move towards genuine forgiveness that is both liberating and transformative. Forgiving others is a profound and transformative practice in Buddhism, rooted in the understanding of interconnectedness and compassion. The journey to forgiveness can be challenging, but it is essential for personal peace and spiritual growth. Here are some practical steps to help you forgive others, inspired by Buddhist teachings. First, cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. By being present with your feelings of hurt or anger, you can begin to understand their origins and how they affect you. This awareness is the first step towards letting go of negative emotions. Second, practice loving kindness meditation, metta bhavana. This meditation involves generating feelings of love and compassion towards yourself and others, including those who have wronged you. Start by focusing on yourself, then gradually extend these feelings to friends, neutral people, and finally to those with whom you have conflicts. This practice helps soften your heart and opens the door to forgiveness. Third, reflect on the nature of suffering. Buddhism teaches that everyone experiences suffering and that harmful actions often stem from ignorance or pain. By recognizing that the person who hurt you may also be suffering, you can develop empathy and a deeper understanding of their actions. This perspective can make it easier to forgive. Fourth, consider the impermanence of all things. Buddhist teachings emphasize that everything is transient, including our emotions and experiences. By acknowledging the impermanent nature of your pain and the situation that caused it, you can begin to release your attachment to these negative feelings. Fifth, engage in compassionate communication. If possible, have an open and honest conversation with the person who hurt you. Express your feelings calmly and listen to their perspective without interrupting or judging. This dialogue can lead to mutual understanding and pave the way for reconciliation. Sixth, perform acts of kindness towards the person who wronged you. This may seem counterintuitive, but small gestures of goodwill can help dissolve resentment and build positive connections. Acts of kindness reinforce the practice of compassion and remind you of the shared humanity between you and the other person. Seventh, seek guidance from a teacher or a supportive community. Sometimes forgiving others requires external support. A Buddhist teacher or a community of practitioners can offer valuable insights, encouragement, and practices tailored to your situation. Eighth, be patient with yourself. Forgiveness is a process that takes time and effort. It's important to acknowledge your progress and not be too hard on yourself if you find it difficult to let go of certain feelings. Celebrate small victories along the way and trust that with continued practice, forgiveness will come. By following these practical steps, grounded in Buddhist principles, you can cultivate forgiveness towards others. This journey not only heals relationships, but also brings inner peace and aligns you more closely with the path of compassion and wisdom in Buddhism. Overcoming resentment and anger is a significant aspect of Buddhist practice, as these emotions can cloud the mind and hinder spiritual growth. Buddhism offers various methods to address and transform these negative emotions, emphasizing the importance of understanding their root causes and cultivating a compassionate mindset. One of the primary teachings in Buddhism that addresses anger and resentment is the practice of metta, or loving kindness meditation. This form of meditation involves generating feelings of goodwill and compassion towards oneself and others, including those with whom one has conflicts. By repeatedly focusing on positive intentions and extending kindness, practitioners can gradually dissolve feelings of anger and replace them with a sense of peace and understanding. Another essential practice is mindfulness, which involves being fully present in the moment and observing one's thoughts and emotions without judgment. Through mindfulness, individuals can become more aware of the triggers that lead to anger and resentment. This awareness allows for a more measured response rather than a reactive one. By recognizing these triggers, practitioners can work on addressing the underlying issues that cause these emotions, whether they stem from unmet expectations, past experiences, or misunderstandings. The Buddhist concept of non-attachment also plays a crucial role in overcoming resentment and anger. Non-attachment does not mean indifference, but rather a balanced state where one does not cling to desires or aversions. By practicing non-attachment, individuals learn to let go of grudges and the need for retribution. This detachment helps in viewing situations more objectively and reduces the emotional charge associated with them. Additionally, the practice of right speech, one of the elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, encourages individuals to communicate in ways that are truthful, harmonious, and beneficial. By adhering to right speech, practitioners can avoid escalating conflicts through harmful words and instead foster an environment conducive to understanding and reconciliation. Buddhist teachings also emphasize the importance of patience and tolerance. Developing these qualities requires consistent effort, but can significantly reduce the intensity of anger and resentment over time. Patience allows individuals to endure difficult situations without becoming overwhelmed by negative emotions, while tolerance helps in accepting others' imperfections and mistakes. In summary, overcoming resentment and anger through Buddhist practices involves a combination of loving-kindness meditation, mindfulness, non-attachment, right speech, patience, and tolerance. These practices work together to transform negative emotions into positive ones, fostering a sense of inner peace and harmony with others. By diligently applying these methods, individuals can break free from the cycle of anger and resentment, leading to a more compassionate and fulfilling life. In Buddhism, the concept of interconnectedness or interdependence is fundamental to understanding the nature of existence and our relationships with others. This principle, often referred to as dependent origination, pratitya samutpada, teaches that all phenomena arise in dependence upon multiple causes and conditions. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected. This understanding has profound implications for the practice of forgiveness. When we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings, it becomes clear that our actions, thoughts, and emotions are not isolated events, but part of a larger web of interactions. This awareness can foster a sense of empathy and compassion towards others, as we begin to see that their actions are also influenced by various factors beyond their control. By acknowledging that everyone is subject to the same conditions of suffering, ignorance, and desire, we can cultivate a more compassionate perspective towards those who have wronged us. Interconnectedness also highlights the shared human experience of suffering. In Buddhism, it is understood that suffering, dukkha, is an inherent part of life. Recognizing this shared experience can help us develop a sense of solidarity with others, rather than viewing them as separate or adversarial. When we see others through the lens of interconnectedness, it becomes easier to forgive their transgressions because we understand that they, like us, are navigating the complexities of life and are often driven by similar fears and desires. Furthermore, the principle of interconnectedness encourages us to reflect on our own role in conflicts and misunderstandings. It prompts us to consider how our actions and reactions contribute to the dynamics of our relationships. This self-awareness can lead to greater accountability and a willingness to make amends where necessary. By understanding that we are part of a larger whole, we can take responsibility for our part in any discord and work towards reconciliation. The impact of interconnectedness on forgiveness is also evident in the practice of loving kindness, metta meditation. This practice involves generating feelings of goodwill and compassion towards oneself and others, gradually extending these feelings to all beings. Through loving kindness meditation, we cultivate an awareness of our shared humanity and interconnectedness, which can soften our hearts and make forgiveness more accessible. In essence, the Buddhist teaching of interconnectedness serves as a powerful reminder that we are all inextricably linked. This realization can dissolve barriers between ourselves and others, fostering a sense of unity and compassion that makes forgiveness possible. By embracing the interconnected nature of existence, we can move beyond resentment and anger, opening our hearts to forgiveness and healing. In embracing a life of compassion and forgiveness, we align ourselves with the core principles of Buddhism that advocate for inner peace, understanding, and interconnectedness. Forgiveness is not merely an act, but a profound journey that requires patience, mindfulness, and a deep sense of compassion for oneself and others. By practicing forgiveness, we release the burdens of anger, resentment, and hurt that weigh heavily on our hearts and minds. This liberation allows us to experience true freedom and joy, fostering a more harmonious existence. Compassion is the bedrock upon which forgiveness is built. It enables us to see beyond our own suffering and recognize the shared humanity in those who have wronged us. Through compassion, we develop empathy and understanding, which are essential in the process of forgiving. This compassionate perspective helps us to acknowledge that everyone is on their own path, facing their own struggles and imperfections. The teachings of Buddhism provide us with practical tools to cultivate forgiveness. Mindfulness practices help us stay present and aware of our emotions, allowing us to process them without judgment. Meditation techniques offer a space for reflection and healing, enabling us to let go of past grievances. The principles of karma remind us that our actions have consequences, encouraging us to choose forgiveness over vengeance. By integrating these teachings into our daily lives, we can transform our relationships with ourselves and others. Self-forgiveness becomes a practice of accepting our flaws and learning from our mistakes, rather than dwelling on guilt or shame. Forgiving others becomes an act of releasing negative energy and fostering positive connections. Ultimately, embracing a life of compassion and forgiveness leads to a more fulfilling and peaceful existence. It allows us to break free from the cycle of suffering and create a ripple effect of kindness and understanding in the world around us. As we continue on this path, we contribute to a collective consciousness that values love, empathy, and harmony above all else. In doing so, we honor the essence of Buddhist teachings and pave the way for a brighter, more compassionate future for all beings. To keep expanding your spiritual awareness, click one of the videos on screen now.